The harvest protocol Professor Michael Torres had spent 40 years studying climate patterns, and he'd never seen anything like this. The data didn't just defy explanation, it defied nature itself. "Look at this," he said, pulling up the satellite imagery for his graduate assistant, Yuki. Ocean temperatures rising in perfect hexagonal patterns. Atmospheric pressure shifting in Fibonacci sequences. And this, he zoomed in on a section of the Pacific. The plankton blooms are forming geometric shapes visible from space. Could it be some kind of industrial pollution pattern? Yuki asked. Michael shook his head. That's what I thought initially. But these patterns appear in the most remote areas on Earth. The middle of the Antarctic ice sheet. Deep in the Amazon. Areas no human has touched in decades. The ships had been appearing for 8 months now. Not landing, not attacking, just working. The media had gone through panic, denial, and finally a strange acceptance. The aliens were here, they were doing something to Earth, and humanity could only watch. Military strikes had failed. Communication attempts went unanswered. The world's governments had formed emergency councils. Conspiracy theories flourished online, and life somehow continued even as everyone knew something fundamental was changing. Michael had approached it the only way he knew how, through data. And the data was telling him a story he didn't want to believe. "I need to show you something," he told Yuki, his voice heavy. "I've been cross-referencing the environmental changes with agricultural projections, population density maps, and historical patterns." He pulled up a global map overlaid with glowing markers. Every area they're modifying, every single one, is being optimized for a specific type of biological growth. High oxygen, increased humidity, temperature regulation, enriched soil composition. "That sounds like they're helping us," Yuki said hopefully, "making the planet more fertile." "That's what I thought too, until I compared it to industrial farming techniques." Michael's hands trembled as he typed. "We do the same thing when we prepare land for intensive agriculture. We optimize the environment, regulate the climate, enrich the soil, and then we—" He trailed off. "Harvest," Yuki whispered. Michael nodded grimly. "They're not preparing Earth for another species to live on. They're preparing it for another species to feed on. And we're the crop." The realization had come to him 3 nights ago, and he'd barely slept since. Every data point confirmed it. The atmospheric changes were increasing Earth's biomass production. The ocean modifications were accelerating plankton growth, the base of the food chain. Even the mysterious disappearances of wildlife in certain regions made sense now. They were testing, sampling, quality control. "We have to tell someone," Yuki said. "Who? The government? They'll either cover it up or start a panic that will kill millions before the aliens even act." Michael stood, pacing his cluttered office. "I need more proof. Something undeniable." That proof came 2 days later from an unexpected source. Dr. Amarachan from the SETI Institute called him at midnight. "Michael, I've been monitoring deep space transmissions. I just intercepted something, and I think you need to hear it." The audio file she sent him was brief, a series of clicks and tones that her software had translated into recognizable patterns. Not language, but mathematics. Instructions. A protocol. Michael's blood ran cold as he decoded it. Optimization parameters. Growth schedules. And a timeline. 6 months. In 6 months, whatever they were preparing Earth for would be ready. "There's more," Amara said. "I found references to this in ancient texts. Sumerian tablets describe the Anunnaki preparing the garden for the great feeding. Mayan codices speak of sky gods who cultivated the world before the harvest time. Even biblical apocalyptic texts, the separation of wheat from chaff, the gathering of the faithful. You think they've done this before? I think they've been doing it for millennia. Small harvests, controlled culling, keeping us at sustainable numbers while they prepare for something bigger. And I think our population explosion, our technology, our spread across the planet, we've finally reached a point where we're ripe." Michael thought of his daughter in Seattle, his sister in Mumbai, his nephew in Sao Paulo. 7 billion people spread across a planet, being turned into the perfect feeding ground. "We can't just accept this," he said. "What choice do we have? We can't fight them. We can't leave Earth. We can't even communicate with them." But Michael wasn't ready to give up. He reached out to every scientist, researcher, and analyst he knew, building a network of people searching for answers. What they discovered painted a picture both horrifying and strangely logical. The ships weren't just modifying the environment, they were cataloging humanity. Every person on Earth had been scanned, their genetic information recorded, their biological markers assessed. In remote regions, entire villages had been taken, studied, and returned with no memory of the experience. They were being sorted. The revelation came during a late-night video call with a geneticist in Iceland. "Look at the scan patterns," she said, showing Michael her analysis. "They're not targeting everyone equally. They're selecting for genetic diversity, health markers, adaptive traits. It's like they're choosing breeding stock." The pieces clicked into place. Not everyone would be harvested. Some would be kept, preserved, the way a farmer keeps the best specimens for the next generation. "Oh God," Michael breathed. "We're not just the crop. We're also the livestock." The question became, which were you? Michael dove into the data with desperate intensity. He created algorithms to predict selection criteria based on the scan patterns. Health, genetics, age, skills, all factored into some incomprehensible equation. The results were disturbing. The very young and very old were being marked differently. The sick, the disabled, those with genetic conditions, separate categories. The healthy, the strong, the genetically diverse, flagged for preservation. His daughter's profile came up as likely preservation. His sister's as likely harvest. The algorithm gave him a 62% chance of preservation based on his age, health, and education level. The knowledge felt like poison. 3 months before the projected timeline, something changed. The ships descended lower, close enough to touch the upper atmosphere. And they began broadcasting, not to governments or scientists, but to everyone. Every screen on Earth simultaneously displayed the same message, translated into every language. "Inhabitants of Earth, your world has reached optimal development. The harvest protocol will commence in 90 days. Those selected for preservation will be taken to agricultural worlds where your species will continue. You have been cultivated for this purpose across millennia. Resistance is unnecessary. Acceptance is optimal." Panic swept the globe. Riots erupted. Some people fled to remote areas, others barricaded themselves in cities. Cults formed promising salvation. Governments collapsed as leaders abandoned their posts. Michael sat in his office, surrounded by data that meant nothing now. Yuki had gone home to Japan to be with her family. Amara had stopped answering calls. The world was ending, not with war or natural disaster, but with the simple reality that humanity had always been someone else's resource. His phone rang. Unknown number. Professor Torres. The voice was human but wrong, too perfect, too controlled. "You have been selected for preservation based on your knowledge and genetic profile. Please remain in your location. Transport will arrive in 4 hours." "What about my family?" Michael demanded. "Your daughter meets preservation criteria. Your sister does not. These decisions are final." The line went dead. Michael looked at the photograph on his desk, his sister laughing at his daughter's graduation. He thought about every meal they'd shared, every memory, every moment that made life worth living. And he thought about a future where he survived while billions were harvested, where humanity became scattered breeding stock on alien agricultural worlds. He made his decision. When the transport beam came, Michael wasn't in his office. He was in the streets, standing with thousands of others who had been marked for harvest. His daughter was there too. He'd convinced her to join him. They held hands as the ships descended, as the selection beams began their work. "Dad, we could have survived," she whispered. "Survived as what?" Michael replied. "As pets? As livestock for another harvest? No. If humanity ends, we end as humans. Together. On our own terms." The ship's beams washed over the crowds. But something unexpected happened. The aliens had anticipated resistance, rebellion, even warfare. What they hadn't anticipated was choice. Thousands of those marked for preservation stood with those marked for harvest. Families refused to be separated. Communities chose solidarity over survival. The beams hesitated. Patterns disrupted. For the first time since their arrival, the ship's perfect efficiency faltered. Michael felt the scanning beam wash over him again, more intense this time. And then, something shifted. The beam withdrew. The ships hung motionless in the sky. A new message appeared on every screen. Unexpected variable detected. Harvesting protocol, suspended pending analysis. This crop demonstrates unsuitable behavioral patterns for agricultural purposes. Michael laughed, a sound caught between hysteria and hope. We're not ripe enough, he said. We're contaminated with something they can't process. What? His daughter asked. Love. Loyalty. The willingness to die together rather than live apart. Whatever they're farming us for, those traits make us poisonous to it. The ships began to ascend. Not quickly, not panicked, but methodically. Withdrawing. Leaving behind a world they'd spent millennia preparing, a harvest they'd carefully cultivated, because the crop had developed an unexpected characteristic. Humanity had learned to choose extinction over separation. As the last ship disappeared into the stars, Michael understood. They would return. Maybe in a century, maybe in a millennium. They would try again with a humanity that had forgotten this day, that had been bred or evolved past the traits that made them unsuitable for harvest. But for now, Earth had earned a reprieve. Not through victory, but through defiance. Not through strength, but through refusal. Michael pulled his daughter close as the sun rose over a planet that was still theirs, still flawed, still beautifully, defiantly human. What do we do now? She asked. Michael looked at the sky, where the ships had vanished. We remember. We teach. We make sure every generation knows what we are, not livestock, not crops, not resources to be optimized and harvested. We're humans. Messy, irrational, loyal to the point of self-destruction. And when they come back, we show them again that some things aren't worth farming, that some species would rather go extinct than give up what makes them who they are. Around the world, billions of people emerged from their homes, looked at their neighbors, and saw not harvests and preservations, but simply people, families, communities, humanity. The aliens had prepared Earth for something far worse than invasion. They'd tried to farm them, and Earth had to bow.